The money is in your hands. $38,000 in rubber-banded stacks, stuffed inside a backpack that smells like motor oil and wet concrete. You didn't plan this. You didn't wake up this morning and say, "Today is the day I rob the Sinaloa cartel." But here you are, crouched in the back of a laundromat in Nogales, Arizona, at 11:47 at night, listening to the dryers spin, watching the door, your heart slamming against your ribs so hard you can feel it in your teeth. You have 40 minutes before they figure out what you did. Maybe less, let me take you back. 2 days earlier, you're 26 years old. You work weekends at your uncle's auto shop. You've never been arrested. You've never even been in a real fight. That changes the morning your cousin Danny calls. Danny has always been the one your mother warned you about. Not in a scary way, just in the way that some people make choices and never fully understand where those choices lead. He's warm, funny, and completely incapable of saying no to easy money. You love him. You also know somewhere deep down that loving Danny costs something. He calls you at 7:14 in the morning. "I need you," he says. "Just driving. That's it, I swear to God." You should hang up, you don't. He explains it over coffee. He's been doing runs for a man named Cortez. Not drugs. He's very specific about that. Just packages, boxes. He picks them up from a warehouse on the south side and drops them at different addresses around the city. He doesn't ask what's inside, he doesn't want to know. $500, he says, for one afternoon. Who is Cortez, you ask? Danny tears the corner off a sugar packet. He folds it. He unfolds it. "Just a businessman," he finally says. But the way he says it, the way he doesn't look at you when he says it, tells you everything. You know what kind of businessman doesn't have a last name. You say yes anyway. The warehouse is on a street with no signs. Concrete, walls, no windows, a single metal door painted the color of rust. A man meets you outside, maybe 50, heavy through the chest, wearing a button-down shirt with sweat marks under the arms. He shakes your hand without giving his name. "Bay 4, he says. 2 boxes. Address is inside. That's it. You and Danny load the boxes into the trunk of his Civic. They're heavy, heavier than you expect. But they don't rattle. Whatever's inside is dense and packed tight. You drive, you deliver. Everything goes fine. When Danny hands you $500 bills in a folded envelope, you feel something you don't expect. You feel nothing. No guilt, no thrill. Just a quiet, terrible understanding that you could do this again. The second run is 3 days later. The third is a week after that. By the fourth, you know the warehouse. You know the man with sweat marks. His name is Ruben. You learn that by accident, when someone calls to him across the parking lot and he turns around. You know which bay, you know which streets to avoid on the way back. You know too much, you just don't know that yet. On the fourth run, something goes wrong. Danny doesn't show up. You call him 4 times. Nothing. You text him. Nothing. Ruben is already at the warehouse door, waiting, looking at his watch. So you make a decision. Small, stupid, irreversible, and you go in alone. Bay 4, 2 boxes, address inside. You lift the first box and the tape on the bottom gives way. The box hits the floor, and $38,000 scatters across the concrete like leaves. You stare at it. For a moment you just stare at it. You should tape the box back up. You should put every bill back inside, in the same order, the same direction. You should pretend this never happened instead. And this is the moment. This is the exact moment your life cracks down the middle. You take off your jacket, spread it on the floor, and start loading money into it. You don't even make a conscious decision. Your hands just move. You take the backpack from the trunk of Danny's car. You fill it. You put the empty box back in the stack, and you walk out of Bay 4, and you tell Ruben there's only 1 box today. Ruben looks at you. It lasts less than 2 seconds. But those 2 seconds feel like standing at the edge of something very high. Then he nods. You drive away. You have no idea what you just did. If you were standing where I was standing, money on the floor, nobody watching, what would you do? Take it? Leave it? Write yes or no in the comments. I'll read every single one. You park behind a laundromat because it's the first place you think of that isn't your apartment. You sit in the car for 6 minutes without moving. $38,000. More than your annual salary at the shop. More than you've ever had in a bank account. Sitting in a backpack on the passenger seat. Your hands won't stop shaking. You pull back onto the street. In your rearview mirror, a black sedan has appeared 2 blocks behind you. You don't recognize it. You've never seen it before. It could be anybody. You turn left. The sedan turns left. You tell yourself it's a coincidence. You tell yourself you're being paranoid. You accelerate slightly just to see what happens. The sedan keeps pace. Your mouth goes dry. You take a right onto a residential street you've never been on before, a random turn you made without thinking, and the sedan doesn't follow. It keeps going straight. You pull over and sit there for a full minute, chest heaving, watching the empty street behind you in the mirror. It was nothing, or it was something, and they decided to wait. You can't tell the difference anymore. That's the thing nobody prepares you for. The moment when paranoia and reality start to look exactly alike. Your phone rings. It's Danny. Where are you? He asks. Where are you? You fire back. He went to the wrong warehouse, he says. There are 2 on that street. He's sorry. He talked to Ruben. Ruben told him you came through no problem. Then Danny says something that stops your breathing entirely. Did you see the box that split open? Ice. Every inch of your body turns to ice. What box? You say. Ruben said one of the boxes in Bay 4 had a loose bottom. He's wondering if anything fell out. He's going through the bay right now. You look at the backpack. I didn't see anything. You say. Silence. Then Danny says, and you will hear these words for the rest of your life. Okay, that's good. Because these guys don't lose money. Understand what I'm saying? You say you understand. You hang up. And you realize you have maybe 40 minutes before they add it up. You don't go home. Going home is the first thing they'd expect. Your address is on your driver's license, and the cartel knows how to read a driver's license. You drive north on the 10 for 20 minutes and pull off at a rest stop. You sit in a bathroom stall with the backpack on your lap, trying to think. Give the money back. Drive to the warehouse right now, walk up to Ruben, say you made a mistake, hand it over. Maybe they believe you, maybe they don't. Run. Get on a highway and drive until the gas runs out. Abandon the car. Get a bus ticket under a fake name. Disappear. Neither option sounds like something a person survives. There's a third option forming in your mind, vague, terrible, desperate. But before you can finish the thought, your phone buzzes. A text from a number you don't recognize. We know you took it. We know your address. We know where your mother lives. You have 24 hours to return what belongs to us or we start collecting. You read it 3 times. Then you do something that surprises even you. You stop shaking. Something in you goes completely dangerously calm. Afraid people make mistakes. Afraid people run straight into the thing they're running from. You call Danny back. I took it, you say. Dead silence. Then, what? The money from the box, I took it. $38,000, and now they're texting me. When Danny speaks again, his voice has changed. The warmth is gone. You need to give it back, he says. Right now. Tonight. They'll kill me anyway. Maybe. But if you don't give it back, they'll definitely kill you. And me. And possibly. I know, you say. I know. But you don't give it back. Because the worst moments have a strange clarity to them. Everything unnecessary falls away. There's only right now. Only this decision. Only the next 60 seconds. And in the next 60 seconds, you remember a man named Victor. Victor Salazar is not a good person. You want to be clear about that from the beginning, because this story could make him sound like one, and he isn't. He's a DEA informant who has been feeding information to the feds for 2 years in exchange for a reduced sentence on a weapons charge. He's been doing it selfishly, calculatingly, and without a single ounce of the remorse he performs whenever the cameras are on. But Victor owes you a favor. You met him 3 years ago through the auto shop. He brought in a truck with a cracked head gasket, and you stayed 4 hours past closing to finish it because he seemed genuinely stuck. He paid you double and said if you ever needed anything at all, to call him. You always thought that was just something people say. You dial his number. It rings twice. Victor, you say, I need to disappear. 40 minutes later, Victor meets you in the parking lot of a Home Depot that closed an hour ago. On the way there, you check your mirror 17 times. A white pickup truck follows you for half a mile before turning into a gas station. Your hands don't stop moving, tapping the wheel, rubbing your knee, checking the lock on the door. When Victor's car finally appears in the lot, you feel something embarrassingly close to relief. He rolls down his window and looks at the backpack. How much? He says. 38,000. He exhales through his nose. Whose? Cortez. Victor closes his eyes, opens them, looks at you like you just told him you punched a grizzly bear. How long do you have? I don't know. Maybe until morning. He drums his fingers on the steering wheel. Okay, here's what we're going to do. He tells you there's a motel in Benson, small town, 40 miles east, where he keeps a room registered under a name that doesn't exist. You go there. You wait. You don't contact Danny. You don't contact your mother. You don't contact anyone. And the money? You ask. Victor looks at you steadily. The money is your only leverage. The second you return it, you're worthless to them. You understand that? You're not a problem they need to solve. You're just an example. You understand that. You drive to Benson. Right now, who do you trust? Victor, the DEA informant who helped you disappear? Or Danny, your cousin who warned you to give it back? Drop one name in the comments. Just one. The motel room in Benson smells like carpet cleaner in decades. The air conditioner rattles. There's a painting of a desert above the bed that someone has hung slightly crooked, and for some reason that small imperfection, that tiny wrongness, almost breaks you. You sit on the edge of the bed. You don't sleep. Every set of headlights that sweeps across the curtain makes you sit up. Every door that closes somewhere down the hall makes your hand reach for the phone. You check the deadbolt 3 times in an hour. Not because you forgot. You remember checking it. You just need to check it again. At 3:17 in the morning, you get a call from Danny's number. But it isn't Danny. The voice on the other end is calm, unhurried, almost polite. It speaks English with a careful precision that tells you the speaker learned it as a second language and mastered it completely. We found your cousin, the voice says. Your stomach drops through the floor. He's fine, the voice continues. He'll stay fine. This is a business conversation. You don't say anything. You took something that doesn't belong to you. I don't think you're a thief by nature. I think you made a decision in a moment of weakness, and now you don't know how to undo it. This is understandable. This is human. You still don't speak. Here is what we're offering. You return the money tonight. All of it. You get your cousin back. You go home. This ends. A long pause. Or, the voice says, you make this complicated. What happens if I make it complicated? You ask. And your voice doesn't shake. You don't know why. A sound that might be a smile. Then it becomes complicated for everyone. You hang up. You call Victor. They have Danny, you say. I know. You know? My people have been monitoring Cortez's communications for 8 months. We knew the moment they picked him up. He pauses. This is actually an opportunity. Something tightens in your chest. An opportunity. My cousin is... I know what your cousin is, Victor says, and his voice has changed now. The warmth is gone. This is Victor the informant, not Victor the man who owes you a favor. And I can get him back, but I need something from you. You wait. You're going to call that number back. You're going to agree to return the money. You're going to set a time and a place, and when you show up, you're not going to be alone. This is the moment you understand what you've walked into. Not a robbery gone sideways. Not a desperate scramble to survive. You've stumbled into the edge of something much larger, a federal operation 8 months in the making, and suddenly you're not a thief. You're a witness. You're bait. But here's what Victor doesn't tell you. Not that night. Not during the 2 hours his colleagues walk you through the plan, explaining where to stand and what to say and when to step back. Not when they put the wire in the lining of your jacket at 4:45 in the morning. What Victor doesn't tell you is that Danny knew. Not about the federal operation. Danny didn't know about that. But Ruben? The sweat marks? Bay 4? Danny knew who Cortez was from the beginning. Not just what kind of businessman doesn't have a last name. He knew the name. He knew the operation. He had been working for Cortez for 14 months. Not 2 or 3 runs like he told you. 14 months. Regular work. Good money. And when he needed a driver he could trust. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Someone who loved him unconditionally. He called you. You find this out at 5:30 in the morning from one of Victor's colleagues, a woman named Reyes, who hands you a coffee and says it so matter-of-factly, so without drama, that for a moment you don't understand what she said. Your cousin recruited you, she says. We've been watching him for 4 of those 8 months. You sit with that. The diner on Speedway Boulevard. The sugar packet he folded and unfolded. Just a businessman. He knew exactly what he was asking you to walk into. The coffee in your hands is hot. You don't feel it. Is he under arrest? You ask. Not yet, Reyes says. That depends on today. You think about Danny's voice on the phone. These guys don't lose money, understand what I'm saying? And you wonder if that was a warning or a test. You wonder if he was afraid for you or if he was managing you. And the terrible thing is, you can't tell the difference. You still can't. You get in the car. At 5:58 in the morning, you park outside the warehouse, the doors open. Ruben is inside, and next to Ruben, hands zip-tied in front of him, looking exhausted and frightened and somehow still managing to look slightly annoyed at you, is Danny. Ruben sees the backpack. He doesn't move toward it. He doesn't gesture at it. He simply looks at it, and then looks at you, and waits. That's the thing about Ruben. You understand it now, standing 6 feet from him. He never reaches for anything. Things come to him. People bring him what he needs because the alternative is unthinkable. And everyone in the room understands that. And Ruben knows everyone understands that. And he finds the whole arrangement perfectly natural. His voice, when he speaks, is almost gentle. All of it, he says. All of it, you say. You set the backpack on the floor. He doesn't pick it up himself. He nods once, and a man behind him collects it and walks it out a side door. Ruben watches him go. Then he looks back at you with an expression that isn't threatening and isn't warm and isn't anything you can name. It's the expression of a man who has seen this scene play out many times and finds it neither interesting nor unpleasant. Just business. What about him? You say, nodding toward Danny. Ruben glances at Danny the way you'd glance at a chair someone left in the wrong place. He waves a hand. The zip ties come off. Danny stands. He looks at you. He looks at the door where the backpack disappeared. He looks back at you. His expression says everything. He knows the money is gone. He also knows something is wrong. He just can't figure out what. You walk toward the door. You take 11 steps, and then the world comes apart. The federal vehicles hit from 3 directions simultaneously. The sound is enormous. Engines, tires, shouted commands in 2 languages. And the warehouse fills with light so suddenly, it's like the sun has decided to move inside. Ruben spins. The man with the backpack appears in the side doorway and then immediately reverses. Someone is on the floor. Someone is shouting in Spanish. Danny grabs your arm. "Run," he says. "Don't run," you say. "Run." "Danny." He looks at you, really looks at you, and something shifts in his face. Confusion first, then understanding, then something more complicated than either. "You knew," he says. "I called someone," you say. "Who?" "Victor." Danny's jaw tightens. He releases your arm. He looks at the federal agents spreading across the warehouse floor, at Ruben being pressed against the wall, at the man with the backpack being walked out with his hands behind his head. "Victor works for the DEA," Danny says. Not a question. "Yes. And the money?" "Evidence now," you say. The noise around you is tremendous. Radios, commands, the metal sound of the building filling with movement. But inside this small space between you and your cousin, there's a strange stillness. "Am I under arrest?" Danny asks. "I don't know," you say. I told them you didn't know. I told them you were a victim." "Am I?" he asks. And you don't answer. Because you know now. And he knows you know. And neither of you says it. Danny is not arrested that morning. He's questioned for 6 hours and released. He calls you from the parking lot of the federal building and says nothing for about 30 seconds. Then, "You could have just given the money back." "Maybe," you say. "You could have run." "I know. Instead, you blew up an 8-month federal case by accident and then accidentally became part of it, and now Cortez's entire network in Nogales is—" He stops. "You weren't even trying to do the right thing." "I was trying to survive." "That's the same thing sometimes," he says, and then he hangs up. You've been watching this long enough to know something about yourself. If you're the kind of person who finds something in stories like this, some truth about survival, about choices, about who people become under pressure, subscribe. There are more files to open, more lives to live, more moments where everything changes in the span of a single bad decision. This is only one of them. Cortez is arrested 6 weeks later in Sonora, Mexico, in a joint operation that your little incident apparently accelerated by about 4 months, according to Victor, who tells you this over the phone from a number you'll never be able to call back. You don't get the $38,000. You don't get anything really except your life, which, when you think about it, is not a small thing to get. You go back to work at the auto shop. Your uncle asks why you look tired. You tell him you haven't been sleeping well. He nods like this is a perfectly reasonable answer and hands you a work order for a Jeep with a busted alternator. You stand in the bay for a moment before you start. The fluorescent light above you flickers, once, like it's deciding whether to stay on. You think about $38,000. You think about Danny's face in the warehouse when he understood. You think about the voice on the phone at 3:17 in the morning, calm, unhurried, almost polite, saying, "This is understandable, this is human." You think about Danny sitting across from you in that diner, folding and unfolding a sugar packet, already knowing what he was asking you to do. You pick up your wrench, you start working, and then, maybe 10 minutes later, maybe 20, you hear tires on the gravel outside the bay. Slow tires, the kind that aren't in a hurry. You don't look up immediately. You keep your eyes on the engine. You listen. The tires stop. No door opens. No one comes in. After a long moment, the tires move again, slowly, and the sound fades back down the street. You straighten up and look at the empty lot outside. Whatever it was is gone. You stand there for a few seconds. Then you look back at the engine. You pick up your wrench, and you wonder, not for the first time, and not for the last, Whether the thing that just drove past was nothing at all, or whether surviving something doesn't mean it's finished with you. Here's what I keep thinking about. At every point in this story, every single one, there was a different choice available. Walk away from Danny's call, tape up the box, return the money, run, trust no one. And I wonder, if you had to choose one moment, just one, where you would have done something different, which moment would it be? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if someone you know is carrying a secret that's heavier than they look, share this with them. Sometimes people need to see that survival is possible, even when you didn't plan it, even when your hands wouldn't stop shaking, even when the only thing you did right was refuse to run. Total runtime estimate, 22 to 26 minutes at natural narrative pacing. CTAs placed at approximately 10%, 50%, 80%. Final. All numbers, written in full for AI voice narration.